Well, hello everyone, this is Jeff Clark with another unboxing, and this will be the final run of these Heritage liveries. See what we got here. And there we have it. Finally got her out of the box. Now this is an in-flight model, so we have the sleeve. We don't have the box like the Geminis do, and also like the JC wings do. And the sleeve's pretty nice. So it's always kind of got something interesting to it. Here we go. And it looks like the packaging could be a little bit better sized for the aircraft because it's a bit tight there. And we have our card that goes with it, which is always kind of nice. I usually display these with the aircraft just because it has a nice little bit of extra interest. We have our metal display stand, which is something that InFlight and Aviation Retail Direct do with their models, and that's a really nice feature. So typically if I have the stand like this, I will display the model on the stand. If it's just the plain stand with nothing on it, then I'll typically just not have the model on display using the stand. And there she is. Now this is the British Airways. This is 747-400. It's a 436, 747-436. And this is the Negus Heritage Livery. British Airways celebrating their 100th anniversary this year. So they painted 3 747s in their old liveries. One is the BOAC, one is the Landor, and one is the Negus, which is this one. This was the third aircraft that British Airways had painted in the Heritage livery, so it's the one that's been running this for the shortest period of time. And it'll wear this livery until it retires in 2022. So this was pre-ordered from Collectible Jets. I ordered it back in April of this year, and it arrived towards the latter part of September. And I've been traveling a lot, so I haven't really had a chance to unbox it until now. And this is the first livery that appeared on British Airways after its reformation in 1974, which was after the merger of BOAC, BEA, British European Airways, Cambrian Airways, and Northeast Airlines. And this was created in 1973 by the Negus and Negus Agency, which was made up of Dick and Pam Negus, and was used until 1984 when the Landor was starting to be introduced. Some reports showed that it was actually stopped being used in 1980, but I wasn't really able to get a proper answer on that, because if Landor started in 1984, there had to be something there in between to fill the gap there. And we see the lowercase writing here on the British Airways title there, and that is correct for this particular livery. The Landor had full capitals on the text there, but for this particular livery we see just the British Airways titles with the lowercase there on the Airways. And this has the white top with the dark blue and a gray belly, which was correct for that particular livery at the time. It wasn't a polished livery on the belly like the BOAC was before it. And it allows the whole aircraft to be better protected, although it does cost more to paint it. So this went to Dublin for its repaint on March the 9th, 2019, and then flew back to Heathrow on March 21st of 2019, and then it flew that day to Cape Town. Was its first trip in the new livery. The Negus was actually used on the 747-100. I have a Negus 747-100 I've done an unboxing on, because I've actually flown on the Negus 747-100 back in the early 70s when I was a little kid. So I wanted to make sure that I had that livery, and now that they brought out the Heritage livery in the 400, I wanted to kind of get a newer version of it as well. So this is called the City of Lichfield. The registration is G-CIVB. Line number on this aircraft is 1018. Serial number is 25811. First flight was on February the 3rd, 1994, and it was delivered February 15th, 1994. And this uses the Rolls-Royce Rolls-Royce RB211 524 GT G2 T19. And each of those aircraft engines puts out about 59,000 pounds of thrust. So the seating configuration of this is layout 1 of 3 that the British Airways has for their 747, and all of their aircraft are to be retrofitted to the layout 1. All 747s will have the layout 1. The 2 other Heritage liveries currently have layout number 3, which is going to be retired. So this one has a first class section of 14 people, and that's going to be in the nose to the L1 door. Then we have the business class, which is called Club World. There's 52 seats in Club World, which is from the L2 door to the L3 door, and then all of the upper deck. And then we have World Traveler Plus, which is 36 seats, and that's from the L1 door to the L2 door. And then we have World Traveler, which is the economy section, which is from the third door, R3 here, to R4, or R5, excuse me. And there is 243 seats for a total of 345. So it's about 75 more seats than they have on the other version. So it's a bit more high density configuration. So let's have a look at the aircraft here. We'll start on the starboard side, as we're already here. And this does have the dark blue Speedbird on it, which is going back to the BOAC Speedbird from the 1939 period. And we have our pitot tubes, our cockpit windshield wipers, and the spray nozzles. And the partial registration there, just above the cockpit window, CIVB, IVB. And such a beautiful aircraft, the 747, definitely one of my favorite aircraft, if not my favorite. Having got to fly on it a few times, especially in the early years of the British Airways and BOAC liveries, it was really nice to be able to see these resurface and have these sort of iconic liveries. I grew up on the flight path to Heathrow, so was able to see these flying over the house all the time. And Heathrow is a great place to sort of live on that flight path, because you can see the stack building up, and you know, sometimes 10 aircraft deep in each of the 2 stacks. So pretty interesting to be able to see these aircraft flying over and see Concorde and all of that during those years. Good times. So we have our pitot tubes. We've got some kind of marking here. I don't know if you can see that. It's like it's a line of some kind, maybe where the transfers connect, but it doesn't look quite perfect, which is a little disappointing. If you can see that on there, just right there. Then we have our R1 door and R2 doors, the cut here in emergency, and then the access door to the upper deck, and it has its own cut here in emergency access there as well. This is the LD3 loading door and the accompanying light that goes with it. And this is where the cubes go. It has your luggage and cargo and such in it. On the nose gear we have VB, which is the partial registration, and the nose gear does turn. It's a bit stiff. Don't want to overdo it and maybe break it. Then we have our landing gear lights, which are just painted on. They're not the jewels. The emergency cut here an emergency marking. This is the R3 and R4 doors. Really nicely detailed there. You can really see the drip rails above the door and the markings for the mechanism. Very interesting. I really like the detail that these aircraft have on them. It's amazing that these collectible aircraft have these. Here's the other LD3 loading door for your cargo and your bags and such. Hold number 5, which is where your animals and your large items, bulky items go, and also last minute luggage that didn't make it into the cubes, they can put that into that hold as well. We have our registration there, G-CIVB, our pressure release valve, the 1919 to 2019, and then the 100 year. Nice markings of the trim adjust there for the horizontal stabilizer. A beautiful quarter flag there. The red of the Negus is really nice and bright and very, very noticeable. And then we have our IVB partial registration there as well. Horizontal stabilizer looks good. And then we've got the paint markings alternate. You can see the aluminum look and also the painted finish there, and the tail illumination light. Then this square here is the APU intake, and then there's one on the other side as well. The auxiliary power unit is mounted here in the tail behind these doors, and then we have the exhaust here. Aviation Retail Direct does a very nice job with these features, and the InFlight models, same thing, do very nice work with making sure that the detail is there. There'd also be a strobe light located here as well. Really nicely done. You can really see the gap there between the horizontal stabilizer and the actual tail. It doesn't blend in. It's actually designed to be separate so that the horizontal stabilizer can adjust. Let's look at the port side here. And there's the Speedbird again. The flight crew escape door, escape hatch. We've got our Royal Mail logo here on the nose, which is also correct because British Airways are a mail carrier. Torpedo tubes and static ports. The L1 door. And then tried to read what that says next to the door. I'm sure it has something to do with the One World. Or actually, I think it says British Airways, but I can't quite tell. Cut here in emergency. The L2 door. They did a better job on the blend here with the paint than they did on the Landor livery, which I unboxed recently. This is a nice clean line. Nice striking white contrast with the blue there. The registration again. Pressure release valve. And you can get a good shot of the nice 3D effect there of the pressure release valve door. It actually sticks out and is open. Horizontal stabilizer, partial registration. Look at that shine. Paintwork looks really nice. Got our, just a bit of dust there. Got our spoilers and our triple slotted Fowler flaps. flapper on, spoilers, flaps, aileron, pressure release valve, wingtip device. We have our red navigation light here, and then we have our Krieger slats on the leading edge. Nice metallic paint job there on the pylon for the engine, and the nacelle looks really nice with the Rolls-Royce painted there. Very nice. And again on the number 1 engine. We have the registration here written on the underside of the wing. We have our wingtip tank vent. Let's look at the other side. No registration on this side, but we have our ailerons, flap track fairings and the flaps, underside of the flapper on, inboard flaps and the flap track fairing. The gear does roll, but it does not tilt. These are rubber tires and the gear is metal. And nice work with the doors there. This is not the removable gear version, so InFlight hasn't quite got the removable gear introduced on all their models yet. Here's the AC packs, and those are nice in 3D, so you can really kind of see them, feel them. There's a little ridging there. And the doors as well are really well marked out, so it looks like you can really see the doors for the wing and the body gear. We have our NACA ducts, VHF antenna here, nice spiral painted on there. Nose gear, and we do have the jewel lights in there, which you can kind of see twinkling. This is a really nice feature, and I can't wait for all the manufacturers to use the jewel lights in every location. Nose gear door, nice midnight blue there. Here we have the hole for the stand, and then another VHF antenna. Another antenna, another antenna, although I think sometimes these could also be drains as well, because there needs to be some method of having a drain. Pressure release valves, you can see there. EPU housing door. Let's have a look at the top here. There's our crew escape hatch door, anti-collision beacon, there's going to be one of these is going to be a VHF antenna, one's going to be an ATC antenna, there'll also be a DME antenna, auto direction finder antenna 1 and 2. These are raised up so they are in 3D. See if you can see them stand up. SATCOM antenna and emergency locator transmitter antenna. And then there's a couple of VOR antennas on the vertical stabilizer. Very, very nice. course, on this wing we have our green navigation light. And we'll give these a spin, but the InFlight 200s, I haven't had very much luck with getting the engines to spin, so they seem to be pretty static. But they do look nice. So very striking livery. I'm glad to have this one. I got two Negus, the original Negus now, and then I'll have this new 747-400. So these heritage liveries were in response to the 100th anniversary of British Airways, which was on August 25th, 1919 to 2019. And it was originally started by the Aircraft Transport and Travel Limited Company, which operated the first international flight, scheduled international flight from London to Paris that year on August 25th. And that company went out of business shortly after that, and was formed later on with 3 other airlines to become Imperial Airways in 1924. That airline was joined with British Airways Limited, which was the original version of British Airways, to create BOAC, British Overseas Airways Corporation. And then BOAC merged with BEA in 1974 to form the British Airways that we have now. So when British Airways was formed, this was the livery that those 747s were then painted in. So BA operates to 160 destinations. They have 277 aircraft, or actually 280 at this current time. The 747s will be retiring in 2023 and 2022, depending on their overall age. This one's pretty old. I think it's 26 some years old. And they're replacing all those with the A350s and the 787s and the 777-9 when it comes out. So it's been a long and illustrious career for the 747 with British Airways, and now it's time for them to be retired. I don't think British Airways has any plans to go with the 747-8, the Intercontinental, which is what some of the other airlines are doing in their transition. There's not that many airlines that are still running the 747, but there is Lufthansa, KLM, British Airways, and a few others, which are going to be continuing to run them until they retire. But you can see nicely here that the Negus livery is well retained with the gray on the engines. So the length of this aircraft, 231 feet 10 inches. The height is 63 feet 8 inches. The maximum takeoff weight is 455 US tons, 910,000 pounds. That is just blows my mind every time. The range is 7,670 nautical miles, and the unit cost of this in 2007, $238 million. So if you've got some money laying around, then this is what you should go pick up. But this is a very exciting model, and I'm really glad to have it. Let's put the stand on here. Nice fit. It's a little wobbly on the stand, but it's still neutral position is nice and straight. So Joe Sutter and the Incredibles were the group that designed this out in Seattle and brought us the 747 in 1969. And what a game changer this aircraft has been ever since then. This aircraft was involved in a couple of incidents. One was a strong odor of fumes in the cabin, the passenger cabin in Phoenix in 2001, and they did have to do a full evacuation on that aircraft. However, no fire was found and no evidence of fire was ever found in the aircraft. No other instances of the same thing occurring with this aircraft. So fortunately, nobody was injured during that evacuation. There was also one other incident, which was at Heathrow when the aircraft impacted with a tug during pushback. So a great model. Got a lot of positive feedback on the Heritage Livery aircraft from British Airways. A lot of people sort of popping up and telling me which one was their favorite one, and I really enjoy that, and I really enjoy your comments, and it's great to be part of that community of people that just love airplanes and like diecast models and such. So if you want to get this for your collection, try to get it. It's still available at the moment. It is not a cheap model. It was pretty expensive actually, for considering that how expensive most models are. There is a Gemini one that is just about to be released. It's currently on pre-order. I don't believe they have a flaps down version of that, so it's up to you whether you want to buy the Gemini or their InFlight. The advantage of the Gemini is that it has the tilting gear and sometimes have more of the dual lighting, but the InFlight model is also a fantastic model, and they have some actually more advanced features, like the ADF antennas are a bit nicer. The metal gear with the shiny wheels is a bit nicer, I think. So they all make great models, but I think that InFlight has certain advantages, especially with their stand, and so does Gemini with their dual lights, and JC Wings also makes a great model as well. So those are the big players for me. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. I'd like to hear your feedback and your comments, and if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so. I'm going to be pushing up to 1,000 subscribers pretty soon, and I'm looking forward to that coming too. So, well, thanks a lot for watching.